Good evening, this is Brastax. I'm Zaka Jacob. Amid a raging debate over alleged land grabbing in various parts of the country in the name of Waqf land, a major controversy is brewing in Uttar Pradesh. The Yogi Adityanath government has decided to carry out a survey of Waqf properties in the state. And the state government says there are close to 2 lakh properties that come under the Waqf property category in the state of UP itself. Now, the UP government is justifying this move by claiming that they have been getting tons of complaints over land mafias taking over Waqf property. While that's the government side, opposition leaders like Asaduddin Owaisi are calling this a mini NRC, where it's being treated almost akin to enemy property. The plan to survey Waqf properties comes even as the UP government is carrying out another major survey to identify unrecognized madrasas. So is this a clean-up act, or is this simply persecution of minorities? But first, the story so far.
Amid the ongoing survey of madrasas in Uttar Pradesh comes another controversial decision. Now Waqf properties across the state will be surveyed. The UP government has asked for an investigation into properties that allegedly misuse the 1995 Waqf Act. District administration has been asked to survey Waqf properties. A 1989 order that allowed the transfer of barren, non-agricultural land to the Waqf has been struck down. Transfer of shrine, graveyard or Eidgah land to Waqf is being relooked. Details of such properties have been sought within a month. The opposition has accused the BJP of being stuck on the subject of polarization.
इस सरकार को केवल हिंदू मुस्लिम में उलझाना है। ये बताएं कि $1 ट्रिलियन की इकोनॉमी क्या मदरसों में सर्वे होने से हो जाएगी?
AIMIM chief has called the Waqf survey a mini NRC.
सर्वे आप करा रहे हैं तो हिंदू एंडोमेंट बोर्ड का भी सर्वे कराइए ना, मठों का कराइए। ये एक सिलेक्टिव टारगेटिंग है एक समुदाय की, वो यूपी का एजेंडा है, नहीं मालूम मेरे को, मगर मैं यहाँ पे आपको ये बोल रहा हूँ कि ये छोटा एनआरसी दोबारा है ये।
The BJP hit back at the opposition, accusing them of appeasement politics.
वक्फ बोर्ड की जो संपत्तियों को अवैध कब्जे में विशेष तौर से जो भूमाफिया किस्म के लोगों ने कब्जा करके रखा हुआ है, वह इसका विरोध कर रहे हैं। जो गरीब मुसलमान है वो तो इसकी प्रशंसा कर रहा है, जो उनका वोट लेकर के तुष्टीकरण की राजनीति कर रहे हैं वो इसका विरोध कर रहे हैं।
Whether it's a madrasa or Waqf property, is this a clean-up or persecution?
All right, let me go across to our full panel. Joining us this evening here on the Talking Point on Brastax, Sharat Trivedi is BJP spokesperson, Ratan Sharda, RSS researcher, Maulana Masudul Hasan Kasmi is an Islamic scholar, Shahid Ali, an advocate, joining us, and Professor Badrinaran, historian and author, also on the broadcast. Let me start with Sharat Trivedi. The question that's being asked is, पहले आपने मदरसे की सर्वे की, अब वक्फ प्रॉपर्टी की सर्वे कर रहे हैं. People like Mr. Owaisi are calling this mini NRC या छोटा NRC. इसका क्या जवाब देंगे? What would your response be? Because it seems like all of this is being done with one eye on keeping the electorate polarized. That's what the opposition is saying.
The polarization is the opposition's problem, not us. Why would we polarize? We are in the government. There's no reason why we should polarize, and the main issue here is not the Waqf property, it is not the Madrasa board. It is just to keep Muslims separate from the rest of the country. They should be treated as either museum specimens or from people from Mars, that the terrestrial laws are not applicable on them. We have been trying to get the Muslims to become, to be part of the mainstream. The trouble here is that there are few thekedars of the Muslim community who declare themselves to be the bosses. These are the people who monopolize the Waqf board. These are the people who monopolize the Madrasa board. These are the people who want total monopoly on the Muslim mind. And whenever anything is done to get the people to the mainstream, they cry wolf. And especially this character from Hyderabad, who's just a local from Hyderabad, who couldn't even crack a single election in any state. He has one central agenda to scare the Muslims that he is the Messiah of the Muslims.
But Sharad
We are trying to
ji,
get
why
the
don't you then do
madrasa
a survey
property
of all
and
the lands
yeah.
that come under the various mutts in Uttar Pradesh? Why don't you do a survey of all the lands that come under the Hindu Endowment Board?
Sure.
सिर्फ वक्फ की लैंड को क्यों सर्वे कर रहे हैं आप?
No. The Hindu endowment surveys are being done on a routine basis. The central schools, the state government schools, the private schools are surveyed every 5 years. That's a routine matter. 250 houses were demolished in Noida. Nobody cried that it was a program against the Hindus. There's a movement against Maoists over 4 to 5 governments. Nobody says that it is a anti-Hindu campaign.
Okay.
The moment we touch this community, the all hell breaks loose. And
मौलाना मसूद अल हसन कासमी, यूपी के जो वक्फ मिनिस्टर है धर्मपाल सिंह, he has said that the government with good intention has started this survey. Orders had been given previously to identify the Waqf properties and then take further action. यूपी के Deputy Chief Minister केशव प्रसाद मौर्य कहते हैं कि the government wants to act upon land mafias who are taking on Waqf property. तो इसमें क्या गलती है?
Zakaji, this is true. The survey of both properties in Uttar Pradesh and all over the country should be done, but it must be done with impartiality. Impartial survey, impartial inquiry should be done and should be conducted, but with preconceived notion, action or conducting survey with preconceived notion is questionable.
नहीं, आपको कैसे पता सर कि वो प्रीकंसीव्ड नोशन से कर रहे हैं? नहीं, ये सर्वे तो शुरू भी नहीं हुआ, लेकिन आप कह रहे हैं कि प्रीकंसीव्ड है।
मैं उनको नहीं, मैं कह रहा हूं, मीडिया में ये बात चलाई जा रही है कि वक्फ बोर्ड एक्ट इज ड्रैकोनियन लॉ और दिस इज एंटी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल, this is against the spirit of the secular India. So I would also like to say in the similarly, yesterday honorable Supreme Court said when there was argument going on the validity of Waqf Board Waqf Act, Supreme Court said in parallel we have in Hindu religion also endowment acts framed by
नहीं, वो तो शरद जी कह रहे हैं कि एंडोमेंट लैंड का सर्वे तो रूटीन बेसिस पे होता रहता है. जब वक्फी लैंड की सर्वे होती है देन ऑल हेल ब्रेक्स लूज, बट एंडोमेंट की लैंड जो है उसका सर्वे तो हर साल होता है.
देखिए, सर्वे से कोई एतराज नहीं है, सर्वे से किसी को भी एतराज नहीं हो सकता. कुछ दबंग हैं, ये सच्ची बात है, जिन्होंने वक्फ बोर्ड की जमीनों को कब्जा रखा है. Waqf is only for the poor people, for the educational betterment and healthcare betterment of the poor people of the community.
Okay.
And the rich people and the young people have no right over this to control.
Ratan Sharda, so the state government under Yogi Adityanath is striking down a previous 1989 state government order which is paving the way for transferring these public properties to the Waqf board. It was either barren land or non-agricultural land, or any land that was used either as a shrine, a qabristan or an Eidgah. The question is, if land has been given by previous governments for a shrine, qabristan or an Eidgah, and now there is going to be a survey of it and a re-look at it, surely it also calls for all the land that's been given to the Hindu community or the Sikh community or the Christian community or any community for that matter. Why just single out the Muslim community?
First of all, let us not forget the premise of this debate, that the great Muslim leader of Indian Muslims, whom nobody votes for, Mr. Owaisi, called this a mini NRC. I thank him for reminding people that NRC has to be implemented because a Supreme Court order. To make it look like some criminal activity is actually the empty mind and hate-filled mind of Mr. Owaisi and IAMN. Secondly, why is this survey being done? No other religious institution, no other religious community has put its claim on thousands of acres of land without any proper documentation of the sheer very strange act of Waqf Act passed by Congress government in 1985. Has any religion claimed land half of Delhi, Has any religion claimed Taj? Has any religion claimed 500 crore worth of property in Jammu Kashmir, which includes Kent, which includes police property, which includes government property and
No, no, but
government
Sharda
land?
ji, you look at all the
Has anybody
properties
claimed
by the
railways
Endowments
and
Board,
highways
not
in the
just
name of
Sir,
Waqf?
Ratan
That is the
ji.
question.
No.
Because
You look at
because
all
of
the
this
endowments
bloated
property in Uttar Pradesh, in Madhya Pradesh, in the southern states, what comes under the Devasthanam board, etc. There are again hundreds of acres of land. तो सिर्फ वक्फ क्यों आप सिंगल आउट कर रहे हैं?
Sarkar, I gave you the reason why it is being done because no other religion has laid claim on government lands, on private lands, on various other aspects which is not about any religion. If you talk about South, in fact, the temples of South have lost lakhs of acres of land due to highly irresponsible behavior of the governments who take over the temples and don't protect them, don't protect their land. And they have been encroached upon, they've been taken away. Those temples have in fact land record with them. They are not claiming on the virtue of some Waqf bill or something. They are demanding on the base of papers they already have.
Okay.
And that land has been usurped by the other people.
Shahid Ali
so
is
don't
joining
compare
us.
The two. There is
Shahid
no
Ali,
if
the fact
do have a
is,
survey.
the fact is there are hundreds of complaints.
You're taken
Yeah,
away
one second. Let me go to Shahid Ali also. Shahid Ali, there are hundreds of complaints of the land mafia, Bhu Mafia as it's called in Uttar Pradesh, taking over Waqf land. Keshav Prasad Maurya, the Deputy Chief Minister, says once this survey is over, the state will decide what to do, whether it is under the Waqf board. The Sunni Waqf board alone in Uttar Pradesh, one state, apparently owns 2 lakh properties. Now, aap bataiye, if these are illegally encroached, then why should the poor Muslim suffer because some land sharks, some powerful, some rich Muslims who are part of this Waqf board kabza kar rahe hain sare zameen ke?
First of all, I would like to tell your viewers that the survey which the government is saying that we will conduct survey has already been conducted under the Act. Survey, without being survey, no property can be included in the Waqf property. There is a complete procedure. What are the Waqf properties and how a Waqf will come into being? How the property will be dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by Muslims, and a property can be dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only if he is the owner of that property. That is the Waqf property.
No, but Shahid Ali Saab, the last survey before before the Waqf properties got declared was in 1989. 30-40 saal ho gaye.
Sir, if you will not allow me, then
no, I am allowing you, but you are saying that it has happened on the basis of a survey. Survey happened 30 years ago.
Sir, people will go with the narrative, which is being published nowadays, which is being in the air nowadays. What is the Waqf? Waqf is the work in respect of the properties which were owned by Muslims only. Because earlier, in the beginning of the report, you said that some of the properties were transferred by the government illegally in favor of the Waqf. So no government could have transferred any property in favor of Waqf. Only Waqf properties could have been included in the list of the Waqf. And there is
Sir, we recently had a case in Tamil Nadu, not in Uttar Pradesh. Shahid Ali Saab, ek baat sun lijiye. We had a case, aapko bhi परिचय होगा, a case that happened in the state of Tamil Nadu. One second. A case that happened in the state of Tamil Nadu where 6 villages, land of 6 villages was being claimed by the local Waqf board there. People could not sell their land. There was no business transaction allowed on that land of 6 villages in Trichy because the Waqf board had claimed that land. ऐसे भी हुआ है ना?
Will you please allow me?
No, I will, but you are not answering my question.
Yes,
you are saying
answering.
Waqf will only claim property that is allocated to Waqf. I am giving you one instant recently that happened 2 weeks ago of property that belonged to other people, ordinary common residents, that Waqf was claiming.
Properties are only those properties which have been specifically dedicated to Waqf board by the peoples, those who are the owners.
Sir,
so please stop all
the
these
reality is that Waqf board is claiming, and across states, for example, in the state of Karnataka, we had the Bangalore Eidgah Maidan story where this ground was being claimed by the local Eidgah committee there. By all means, they can claim that land. But they did not have any land records or revenue receipts to show that the land was theirs. Neither did they participate in the last survey that happened in 1964. These are all live examples that I'm giving you.
Do you want to say that Honorable Supreme Court has passed the wrong order?
Sir, this has nothing to do with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court order was on allowing a particular festival, the Ganesh Chaturthi, to happen there. That is a different matter. The Supreme Court has not passed any order on the ownership of that land. But let me come to Professor Badri Narayan. The political argument, Professor Badri Narayan, the political argument being made by Akhilesh Yadav, by Asduddin Owaisi, by Congress, is that all of this is being done to polarize so that the pot is kept simmering, so that electorally it benefits the BJP. In UP, we don't have an election for another 4.5 years. So I'm not sure this polarization argument, or please enlighten us how this polarization argument holds water if the next election in this state is 4.5 years away.
You are very right. Actually, election is not too near, and any polarization act takes place when the elections come. So we should not see it in that frame. Actually, there are two meanings of this act. One is the meaning of the state. A state always document and survey of its zones, its zone of governance or control. And any part of the society can't remain aloof of that. It should be documented. It should be surveyed. Either it's a religious arena or social arena or cultural arena. Either it's the minority or the majority. It's a natural process. Based works in everywhere, not only in India, all over the world. The state works in the same way. So documentation and survey is the basic work of the state to know to whom they want to govern.
Okay.
So they have to govern the society. They have to govern the state. So that's one meaning. Second meaning is that the communal color of the Governance Act, which political parties are trying to give, politicians are free to do that, and they always do that. But you are very right that this is not the Polarization Act for election. This is
so
the
then what is the intent? What is the intent behind this move then?
Zones which are not yet in the zones which are not
Dr. Badri Narayan, then what is the intent?
I think no one should
what is the intention behind doing this now? Because if it's not about polarization, because the next election is far, far away, then what is the intent of doing this move now?
As I said, that this is not in that way the polarizational intention, the act which carries polarization intention.
Okay.
This is the act of the governance of the zones which are not yet well surveyed and well documented, where there are a lot of problems, as you said, in the many cases. There are reportings that these Waqf board lands are not well documented, they have not records, they have not the papers, and this is making them a kind of regularize the entire process.
Okay, so regularization of these lands. Let me ask Sharad Trivedi, but the argument from the opposition is पहले hijab हुआ, उसके बाद halal हुआ, उसके बाद loudspeaker हुआ, madrasa survey, now Waqf land survey. At a time when courts in Mathura and Varanasi are all hearing contentious issues, why rake up this issue of Waqf land now? Because it clearly seems to be that this is being done for the intention of sidelining Muslims or relegating them as second-class citizens, because you are not breaking up issues of, whether it is Hindu endowment land or whether it is, law and order problems that are caused because of festivals that are being celebrated, or whether it is, Kavod issue. All of these are not being raked up. Only Muslim issues are being raked up over the last 6 to 8 months because there is an ulterior political motive to it. Sharad Trivedi, that's what the opposition is saying.
Zaka, we have done more for Muslims than probably rest of the parties put together. We have had 10,000 scholarships exclusively for Muslim children. We have had 75,000 more Hajj pilgrims going than which were before, because earlier it was 1,25,000. Today there are 2 lakh Hajj pilgrims going only because of Honorable Prime Minister's negotiation with the King of Saudi Arabia. UAE and Saudi Arabia have given the highest national award to our Honorable Prime Minister. We have done more for them than anybody else. The trouble is that we are being painted in a corner that we are anti-Muslim. But let me tell you that this is the first time that we do not have had a single riot Once they tried to do it in 21, the response of the government was, and they finally realized that this was not going to work.
But Sharadji,
The
Akhilesh
issue
Yadav
that
is saying
if
even the
Muslims
madrasa
want to
money,
come and join-
Sharadji, the Akhilesh Yadav is saying even the madrasa money has been cut down to about 400 crores. It's been cut down to a pittance of what it used to be. That's what he's claiming.
No, 10,000 crore of scholarships is being given. The computerization of madrasas is taking place. They do not want the Muslims to join the mainstream. That is the main problem. The thekedars, the contractors of the Muslims, which fortunately is not the case with any other religion. The Christians don't have contractual system. The Sikhs don't have that. The Hindus don't have that. You do anything, you talk to the community and they are going to respond. Here we have got a few contractors of this community. One party from Hyderabad, which was born out of sedition in 1948. His grandfather was locked up in 48 and his grandfather was locked up in 58. And the founder of this party was locked up in 47, 48 and was sent back in 53 only on the condition that he is going to leave the country.
Okay.
They are bunch of thugs. They have nothing to do with Muslims.
Okay.
When we
So
demolish 250 homes in
Maulana
Noida,
Kazmi,
we are not accused of
Maulana Kazmi,
being anti-Muslim.
You know, it comes down to one simple question, and what Sharadji said, that in the Muslim community there seem to be certain thekedars who are speaking on behalf of that community, whether it's a Mr. Owaisi or other people. Why should that have to be the case? Ultimately, a majority of this community is poor, it's landless, it doesn't have basic education or basic social services. Then isn't it only in the benefit of the large sections, of the poor sections of this community, if Waqf land is surveyed and accountability is brought to the fore as to what is Waqf land and what is not Waqf land, and what is not Waqf land needs to be given to the poorer Muslims?
Yes, Zaka, I absolutely 100% agree with BJP spokesperson and you that the upper class among the Muslim community is controlling the Waqf land and also misusing this land. But only the slightly apprehension is that will government snatch the Waqf board land, Waqf property and give to other agency, to other peoples? This is the basic question. That is why the other people like saying that a lot of properties have been grabbed by Waqf board, and you are saying that you are trying to take away this land and to do away this land from the Waqf board, from the Waqf. So this is only the apprehension.
Okay.
Yes, if you are here to say that the upper class people, dabang among the Muslim people, have grabbed the Waqf board land, we are with you.
Ratan Sharda,
conduct the survey.
you know, the Waqf land was transferred basis an act of the Uttar Pradesh Assembly. It was not, on one person's whim or fancy. If you want to resurvey this land, then you have to go back to the Assembly and amend that act, because it's the legal basis for all of this land being given to the Waqf board is basis this 1989 act which was passed in the Uttar Pradesh Assembly.
Well, having an act which gives property to Waqf, how does it remove the right of government to survey? Is the government hijacking the land? Is government taking away the land?
That's what Maulana is saying, that government is taking the whole purpose of the survey is to take away the land.
See, I agree with Maulana. One thing, I agree with Maulana Kasmi that the apprehension has to be addressed. But that does not mean he's not saying there should be no survey. He's saying in the garb of the survey, land should not be handed to somebody else. I agree. But point is, survey is not illegal. Don't say survey is illegal. Secondly, you know today's story, Muhammad Ali Johar University, which was controlled by MP, ex-MP, was broken into, and books of a madrasa awliya were found hidden behind a wall. This is the kind of behavior of these people. And how can they oppose survey then? And lastly, Waqf is the third biggest landlord of this country. Still, they are asking government to finance them. Why, my dear friends? Why Waqf cannot finance their own religious activities? You sit on the land also, you sit on assets also, but you will also want government. a secular government which is supposed to be equidistant from all the religions, supporting Waqf by money? I don't understand this.
Shahid
On
Ali,
one side,
respond to that.
self-respect, on the other
Ratan
side, trying
Sharda
to take the
saying
rights.
Waqf has the third largest share of property in this country. Why do then you need grants or donations from government or endowments from government? You should be running with your own money.
Really, we do not need any kind of donation. If Waqf board properties are liberated from the clutches of the government, I am saying with responsibility that we will be in a position to finance the budget of India, not of a state. We can finance the budget of India. We can
No,
earn so
but
much
that's
money
the
from
problem.
Waqf
No,
properties,
that
but
this
since-
Waqf property, if
since the
proceeds
Waqf
of this Waqf properties,
the
if
problem
they are
is,
liquidated,
never allow me
will
to
be
complete my
controlled by a
answer.
few rich Muslims.
No,
The large majority of the
Waqf
poor
properties
Muslims
are
will continue
controlled
like the
by-
way they are today.
No, Waqf properties are controlled by government.
Sir, Waqf
Waqf
properties
boards are
come under the Waqf
constituted-
board.
Waqf boards are constitutionally appointed by the government appointees.
Yes, there are a
Waqf
few
board members
there are
are
a few
appointed by the
government
government.
appointees on every Waqf board, but that
All
doesn't mean
Waqf
it's
board
controlled.
members are appointed by the government.
It
sir.
does not mean that it's entirely controlled by government.
Now,
There are a
Waqf
few members
properties-
who are appointed.
Waqf properties are regulated or looked after by whom? Waqf board.
Yes.
Waqf board is a statutory body.
So
That
the
is the
reason
problem.
why it's
Why
regulated,
you
Shahid
people-
Ali Saab, is
why-
because if
why
it
the-
is
why-
not, then Waqf
The
boards all
problem,
over the
sir,
country will
is
go
you
ahead
never
and sell
allow me
that
to
land,
complete my answer.
and the rich Muslims will pocket that money. That's why it's regulated.
So
Does he
you
remember
are
how
only
industries
in the
also
habit of
paid
putting
in,
questions, not
in the
getting
rich
answers.
South Bombay
please
area?
allow me to give.
Some Waqf members
please
sold
allow
off
me
the
to
land to
give
that
answer.
industrialist. Does he remember that?
Shahid Ali.
Will you please allow me to answer?
Yeah, I'm listening to you. Yeah.
The problem is that I am not allowed to give answer to any of the
Yeah,
questions.
please respond.
The
I'm waiting
questions
for
are
your
beautiful.
response.
I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the questions. See, as long as the Waqf properties are regulated, looked after, controlled by government, we people cannot open our schools, our universities, our hospitals, our medical colleges. Let this control be given to us, to Muslims, in the same manner as the Sikh brothers of India, have been given by way of Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee Act. Their representatives, their office bearers are elected by Sikh community. Why we are not allowed to have our own body elected by Muslims of India? In our case, the government has taken over our properties by way of constituting these Waqf boards and
Okay.
appointing their own
Ratanji, quick
persons.
response. I have to
That is
wrap
the
up
problem.
in 30 seconds. Yeah.
That is the problem.
I
And
think
the problem
he's
number
lying to
two
his
is,
teeth.
Quick
If
response.
Waqf board is not,
Shahid Shah, please yield. Let Ratan Sharda. You asked him a question. Let him respond. Ratanji, yeah. 30 seconds.
if Waqf board is not a Muslim body, if except one or two politicians, all others are not Muslims, if the money and the board is not and the assets are not controlled by Waqf board, please scrap the Waqf board. That's what I've been saying for last so many days. Have a new Waqf board, but you cannot say that the money goes to government. Money is in Waqf board, land is in Waqf board, each state has own Waqf board, each state has a head, which is the ruling party is nominee generally. But down there,
Okay.
what are other Muslims doing in that?
All right,
What are
I
they
got to
doing?
wrap
And
up.
where is the rent money going
Yeah,
to?
and
who is selling of land of the Waqf board? Same Waqf members who
Okay.
are private members of the trust.
I got to wrap up. Thank you very much to all our guests. Let's see how this story plays out. Like I said, it has been wrapped in a contentious, polarized debate, as it were. First, whether it was the Madrasa survey or now the Waqf land survey. But let's see what actually comes of it and if the government is able to revise all the Waqf properties. Because remember, the last survey happened in 1989. Let me now go across to our second debate tonight, which is coming in from the eastern English city of Leicester. There have been a series of hate attacks which are on the rise in the UK. Multiple clashes reported between Hindu and Muslim groups. It started off in Leicester since last month, since an India-Pakistan game, a cricket match. Now it's spread to Smethwick in Birmingham. A mob of hundreds targeting a temple, a Durga temple, bottles and firecrackers inside. What is fueling this sudden surge of Hindu-Muslim attacks, and that too in faraway lands like England? Is it because of Hinduphobia?
Communal clashes continue to erupt in the United Kingdom. The latest flashpoint was in Smethwick in Birmingham. A mob of nearly 200 people marched towards a Hindu temple, raising slogans. Some of the protesters even tried to scale the walls of the Durga Bhavan temple, and police struggled to control the agitating mob.
A huge crowd of several hundred descended on the Durga Bhavan here, and they shouted, they demonstrated. Police held them back, pulled them back, and finally had to struggle to contain the crowd.
The tension in Smethwick comes days after a Hindu temple was vandalized and a saffron flag was desecrated by a mob in Leicester. In fact, street clashes have been breaking out between Hindu and Muslim groups for several weeks now. Over the weekend, slogans were raised by both sides and glass bottles were flung. Police stood in between the two groups to prevent escalation of violence. There were reports of mobs marching through Muslim-dominated areas, chanting Jai Shri Ram. There has been recurring trouble in Leicester since the India-Pakistan Asia Cup match on the 28th of August. After India won the match, supporters gathered to celebrate, and that's when the violence broke out. While there is no end to the violence and provocation, who's stoking the fire?
All right, so what is flaming and what is engulfing these Hindu-Muslim riots, as it were, and that too in a faraway country like Britain? Wasik is a writer and commentator and a counter-extremist analyst. Lord Rami Ranger is a member of the House of Lords. He'll be joining us. Kuldeep Shekhawat is director at MATV. Wasik, let me start with you. You've seen what happened yesterday in Smethwick in Birmingham at the Durga Bhavan there. This was a pre-announced program. And suddenly there was a group of about 200, folks who landed up there, started protesting, raising slogans. Why is this coming to bear in the way it has over the last few days? First, the attacks and the sloganeering that we saw in Leicester, and then yesterday in Birmingham.
Well, I think what we need to look at in terms of the analysis, in what's missing in the analysis, is that Islamists are now exploiting freedom of speech, which they very much enjoy in the West, and they're blurring the boundaries between what is acceptable speech and what is hate speech. And what we've seen is that they're able to organize themselves and frame what they're doing as a way of retaliating against a so-called Hindutva RSS threat that they have manufactured against themselves. And to make this point further and to advance it, the UK has not prescribed any Hindu nationalist organization for terrorism, but they have done so with Islamist terrorists. So these guys are now organizing themselves regionally. We know that it broke out in Leicester. It's now traveled all the way over to Birmingham, towards the East Midlands. We know that Islamists from London have come down to support this cause and to frame it into an Islamist versus Hindutva thing. And they're manufacturing something which was necessarily looks like a nationalist issue rather than a religious one. And
but Kuldeep Shekhawat,
hate issue.
Here's the thing. Many of these people who are protesting, whether on the Hindu side or on the Muslim side, are maybe second or third generation British citizens. Their families may owe allegiance to either India or to Pakistan 2 or 3 generations ago, but they are as British as British can be. What is their sort of grief in all of this? That so much so, look at those pictures from Leicester where this man climbs up in a hoodie. He climbs up on top of the temple there and pulls out the saffron flag that was atop that temple. He's probably never even been to India or been to a temple. I mean, he's probably never even stepped outside the UK. These are not Indian or Pakistani citizens. These are second, third generation British citizens. Why are they getting so riled up, Kuldeep Shekhawat?
Yeah, I can understand. See, there are 2 different aspects to this. One is what happened in Leicester, and the second one is what happened in Birmingham. The Smethwick story is different from the Birmingham story. From Leicester story. Leicester, the issue started with the India-Pakistan match. And then something was served to an Indian on India's national flag. That is where the story flagged off. But then going to a temple, these people coming from Birmingham and then shouting slogans on the streets of Leicester and then making a statement that, oh, they are not scared of Hindus, they are not scared of Hindu community, they are not scared of this, they are not scared of that, and we will teach you a lesson. All this created a lot of tension, and in the end, they went on rampage in different houses, which were Hindu houses. So the story in Leicester was because of India-Pakistan clash, cricket match, precisely, which has turned out to be a bit of India-Pakistan story, and it became a Hindu-Muslim story, certainly. Now, what happened in Birmingham, which is Smethic? In Smethic, there was a program which was supposed to be run by the temple, and it was a peaceful program. Sadhvi Ritambra was supposed to come there today, and she was supposed to give a statement or speech or whatever you can call it. It was a religious function. She had been traveling to UK for last, I think, around 20 odd years. And she had been here many times. I have personally seen her all around. And she has never given a statement which is anti-Pakistan or anti-Muslim or anti-Islamist, or you can say she has never spoken a word against any other religion, precisely. Still, what the story that has come out from within is that there was a guy, a Congress guy, who is a Congress supporter, and being a Congress supporter, what he did is he told the Muslim that this lady is coming to UK, and she has been part of what do you call it as the people who were part of the demolishing squad of the Babri Mosque, and she is the one. She is being given space in this temple. So some of the Muslim clerics went to the temple and they said, "Are you doing this?" They said, "Yes, we are." So they said, in the name of unity of the community, you should not do this because this lady has got this, blah, blah, blah. This was all spoken, and then it was decided by the temple committee as well that, okay, we will not call her. So they gave a letter to them saying that, okay, we are withdrawing our invitation and she won't come. This was conveyed to Sadhvi Ritambra while she was in US. So Sadhvi Ritambra told them that, okay, in that case, I'm not coming to UK. I'll go straight back to India. Despite this, yesterday, some people from outside of Birmingham, they were not from Birmingham, and they were all from Muslim community. They turned up there in big numbers, and in the end, around 8 o'clock in the evening, it was around 3,000 people who turned up there. And they were shouting slogans, and they were saying Hindu Gaddar, RSS Gaddar, BJP Gaddar, all those different kind of sloganing was happening there in the background. But peacefully, the police was able to handle it, and police was able to disperse them.
No, but the fear is, and I want to bring in Lord Rami Ranger also into this conversation, that there is this flawed argument that's being put forth that the polarization that you're seeing in India over the last 5-6 years, that is now being exported to the UK. And I keep coming back to this. Many of these people, whether it was in Birmingham, whether it was in Leicester, first of all, they are outsiders. They're not natives to those two cities. They haven't grown up there. And B, more importantly, they are British citizens, whether they are of Indian origin or Pakistani origin, Hindu origin or Muslim origin. The fact is that they are second, third generation British citizens. So this flawed argument that, the polarization of India is being exported to Britain, that doesn't hold water, does it, Lord Rami Ranger?
Well, my take is different. I think this is the legacy of partition of India in 1947, when two communities who lived for centuries in perfect harmony, they were divided on the basis of religion. The hatred that generated based on religion has left a permanent mark on the subcontinent. Now that hatred is being imported into United Kingdom, and I will blame some parliamentarians as well from both Labour and Conservative Party for creating Labour friend of Kashmir, Conservative friend of Kashmir, just for few votes. You cannot have friend of a province which is not a sovereign, which is not an independent. You can have a friend of India, friend of Pakistan, Bangladesh, because they're independent countries. They've exchanged ambassador and high commissioner.
Sure, but Lord Ranger, partition happened 75 years ago. Many of these kids who are protesting there are third, fourth generation. I mean, maybe their grandparents lived to see the partition. Why is it affecting them?
But still the hatred that fermented at that time, millions of people were killed, millions of people were displaced. You know,
Of
the
course.
scars do not disappear. Now importing the politics of subcontinent into United Kingdom, and I agree with you that they are both citizens of United Kingdom. They both have one country and one king. They have become one. They should not be damaging the social cohesion of this country where their destiny is now linked. And on top of that, they are showing a very poor, giving a very poor impression to the host community that what we have imported is now damaging our
What
own
does it
fabric.
also say,
And,
Lord Ranger, what does it also say about law enforcement and its inability to anticipate these kind of protests, and B, the ability to, give everybody a free society? After all, British society, Western democracy, Western values pride themselves on allowing people of all faiths to practice their faith. But here you have pictures of people, pulling out saffron flags from temples, Durga Bhavan being attacked, a Sadhvi not being allowed to speak there. And of course, there is also from the other side allegations of people chanting Jai Shri Ram in Muslim neighborhoods. I mean, this is a very serious threat to the multiculturalism of Britain.
When the law and order fails, that shows lack of policing, lack of professional policing. Police should have known what is going to happen. And on top of that, the social media is doing a very big harm by generating a lot of fake news and creating a lot of sensation, because the videos are being docked and sent from one place to the other, on WhatsApp and everything. So I think now the role comes to the leadership. Leadership from both the community has to calm these people and tell them to look at a bigger picture. No benefit can come from living in hatred.
To be fair, in Leicester, at least once the incident happened, once the riots happened there, I believe the head of the ISKCON temple there in Leicester, as well as the head of the biggest Durga, together came out and read a statement in a bid to try and calm tempers. And let me also once again say, as I wrap up, and I thank my guests, that many of these blokes are not from these cities. They are not from the violence that happened in Leicester. Was instigated in large part by people from the outside. These are gangs trying to mark their territory as well. So there is a definite law and order angle to this as well, and which is why, as Lord Ranger said, it does raise some very serious question marks as to the ability of the British police and law enforcement there to have anticipated this and more so controlled the manner in which it played itself out. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, on the other side, this is a big development. Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, has ordered a partial mobilization bang in the middle of the Ukraine war. Is this the clearest sign yet that he's doubling down? Does it betray a sense of nervousness in the Kremlin?